welcome everyone to this week's video. This week we have the honour of having Australian football icon, I'd say legend, Michael Zappone on. Michael has over 25 years of media experience, covering huge events and competitions like the A-League, the Olympics for Channel 7, I think, as well, the Commonwealth Games, the Asian Cup, Asian Champions League, the World Cup for Optus. I'm sure that's just the beginning. So as I said, it's an honour to have you on, Michael. How are you?
Great. No, thanks for having me, Luke. I did have to think twice about joining an AC Milan forum, but considering that Juventus won the game just played, I thought it would work well. But I should put it out there that I did agree to join you before the game, not knowing what the result would be. So I was happy to take the criticism and the stick. But no, it's a great pleasure to join you, and good to see that you guys are doing lots to keep the community together across Australia.
Yeah, you're probably right in what you said about the Juve match. We probably should have had you on before that game, but we're still on top. So you guys are hunting us down slowly, quite quickly these days, but and the game in hand. So we'll see. It'll be an exciting end. I guess we'll start the chat with kind of where we always start, Michael, in just asking you a little bit about your football experience and growing up in Melbourne. What it was like being someone that was interested in Italian football and the Italian league, whether it was hard to watch or just a little bit about that.
Absolutely, yeah. So I grew up in the northern suburbs of Melbourne, and in a suburb called Fawkner, and it's a place where a lot of Italians grew up, Fawkner and Coburg and those suburbs. And I played for the local soccer club, the Fawkner Soccer Club, who were at the time, one of the bigger clubs, and played in the the Premier League of Victoria at the time. So it was a great community. It was where I played with my mates. A lot of them were of Italian background in those days, living in Fawkner, and we were called the Azzurri, and our strip was blue. So we felt like we were playing for the Italian national team. Actually, one of the great highlights of playing for that team was, when we were young, we used to always have our rivalries against the Thomastown Devils. They were red and black like the AC Milan colours, and Brunswick Juventus. So there was always a great rivalry amongst the other Italian clubs, Juventus and Thomastown, who we thought were playing against AC Milan. So that was sort of my first introduction to football, and my grandfather and my dad used to take me to training, and then you'd hang around and on a weekend play your game in the morning, and then you hang around and stay at the club all day and watch the senior team play, which was always great fun. So, but in terms of watching Serie A in those days, unfortunately it wasn't like today where you've got access to so many different options. But we did have, growing up, a lot of people of my era I was born in '74, so a lot of people of my era grew up in the '90s, early '90s, watching the 1 hour highlight show on SBS, and it would always be a week later. So they'd literally send the VHS tape on a plane, and it'd get to Australia a few days later. And on the Sunday morning, we'd watch a 1 hour highlight show of the Serie A. And I remember recording them on my VHS and always rewatching them. And they were the days where, you had some great AC Milan teams. Inter, Juventus were all very strong, and obviously Diego Maradona as well, playing for Napoli, and we were watching those highlights, and it was always great to watch. So that was probably the first taste of the Serie A that we got when we were growing up. And just coming back to Fawkner, a great story there was when the Juventus team came to Australia to play against the Australian national team. And Paolo Rossi was one of the players that came at the time, and they had a training session at Fawkner. And I remember it was like Elvis Presley coming to Melbourne for us. So it was bedlam. There were traffic. The cops were everywhere directing traffic. The streets were blocked off, and and Paolo Rossi and his team trained at Faulkner when they were preparing to play against the Australian national team at the MCG. And that's one of my early memories in the 80s of going to the MCG and watching Juventus play against the Australian national team at the time. So that was one of my early memories of seeing Juventus for the first time in the flesh. And I also saw AC Milan around the same time, maybe a few years later.
Wow.
They played at Carlton's ground at Optus Oval, or whatever they call it these days.
Yeah.
And that famous game, I think they finished that game 10 minutes early because Milan had to get the plane. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made their plane back to Italy. So, some great memories early days.
Wow. Was that seeing Paolo Rossi, was that before the famous World Cup win?
No, it was after, because the World Cup win was in 82. So, it was after Italy had won the World Cup. So, he was a big hero, obviously, for every Italian boy. And, watching him play in the World Cup when I would have been 8 years old. And then a few years later, he came to Australia with Juventus. So, it was one of those, great moments.
I've got to ask, were you part of the huge mob, I guess, that descended on Lygon Street after the World Cup win in '82?
No, I was too little. I think my only memory of that was waking up at my grandfather's house. So we lived around the corner from my grandparents, and wake up in the middle of the night, and we slept up. I slept over his house that night, and my dad was there, and my uncles, and we were all there watching the game. So I was only 7 or 8 years old. So Dad didn't go, and I think, if he did, I can't remember. He left me at home.
Yeah, I'm always a little bit envious of when Dad and my uncles talk about what happened in that time, in that era with football. But yeah, that's all right. Was there much of, you kind of spoke about the Italian clubs in Melbourne, obviously more soccer clubs. Was there much of that kind of community base, I guess, to watch games, or specifically about the Italian clubs, or was it more localized to what was happening in Melbourne?
Yeah, it was hard to watch live games. World Cups, we would get together, and I remember through the 90s especially, I finished school at 92, so I suppose in the 90s we would always get together with our friends, and then you'd always have SBS broadcasting the games live, and we would go down to Lygon Street, and there'd be several venues there showing the game. Cafe Trevi was a big one where we would all gather, and that would be heaving with Italian fans watching games in there. So they're probably my great memories of watching the Italian national team, not so much the Serie A games, but the Italian national team during World Cups, especially in Carlton. That was certainly a meeting point for most of the younger Italian boys and girls of Melbourne who love their football.
I've always found it funny that you've got all these groups of supporters, I guess, that hate each other like vehemently, but then when the national team plays, they all come together and are happy to watch games together and celebrate it all together.
Yeah, it's funny. And when we were growing up, the Italian national team was dominated by AC Milan and Juventus players. There were often times when you look at the starting 11 and there were 5 Juventus players and 6 AC Milan players. So obviously things have changed, and there are a lot more internationals playing in the Serie A these days. But you'd give your AC Milan mates some stick if one of their players in the national team made a mistake. There's always that answer there.
Yeah. I guess going forward in modern times, do you still think that that community base of supporting Italian football still exists in Melbourne, or in Australia in general, I guess?
I think it does. I think it's it really is up to my generation. I'm in my 40s now, and my son's 15, so he loves his football. He plays football. He watches. He plays, for a local club in the NPL, and he gets up in the morning and watches Juventus games with me. So he's often the one that wakes me up. He sets the alarm and wakes me up, and that's great. As a dad, it's one of those things that I shared with my dad and my grandfather, and it's great that I can do that with my dad and with my son now. So yeah, he loves it, and I think, that there should be, that we'd hope that generation going through that, that were born in 2000 onwards continue to watch the game. And I think the Serie A has improved. It went through a rough patch, and, we had the Calciopoli scandal after the 2006 World Cup, and obviously Juventus were relegated, and Italian football went through a pretty dark period, and the results in Europe weren't great. But I think in the last decade, the Italian football and the clubs have really started to grow again. And we've seen the performance of, obviously, Juventus have done really well over the last sort of decade, but other clubs are starting to pick themselves up, like Milan, and AC Milan obviously had changes in ownership, and that's hurt them, but it looks like they're back on the right path now. Inter have been really strong, making Europe, Atalanta. So I think we've seen, especially in the last 5 years, Italian football really grow. So the reason I raise that is I think young kids like my son see Ronaldo playing at Juventus, and they want to watch it. And even those who don't follow the Serie A closely see players like Ronaldo, like Lukaku, going to the Serie A at the peak of their powers. Yes, Ronaldo's 38 or whatever he is, but he's still at the top of his game. Lukaku is one of the best footballers in the world. So in AC Milan, I've got a great crop of players coming through. Zlatan, yes, he's old, but he's, again, like Ronaldo, he's, try and find a time when he was playing better football. He's still playing wonderful football. So they're the sort of players and characters that make you want to watch the game, and make the young kids want to watch the game as well. So I think, long answer to your question, Luke, but I think, a lot of people want to watch the Serie A these days.
Yeah, for sure. I'll warn you though that at 15 things can change, Michael. If Milan win the Scudetto this year, you never know. Your son might jump ship and come across to Milan.
Yeah, I don't think so. He's got a great collection of Juve jerseys. His Christmas present every year is the Juventus kit from the Juventus store in Italy, and it comes with with all the badges on it, and he's got a great collection of Dybala shirts. I think 5 or 6 years in a row now. That's his favourite player. So I can't see him jumping ship.
You are right, though, that especially for me, kind of going through school, definitely there was a stronger, a lot of the attention with my friends, and I just felt like the community in Melbourne was EPL focused. Everyone was obsessed, even La Liga. Not much attention on the Italian league. And yeah, I definitely agree that I feel like that's starting to change now. Definitely with some of the other clubs somewhat kind of reviving now and coming back to life. So I think it's a pretty exciting time for Italian football. And yeah, it sounds like you agree there.
I guess absolutely. It's great seeing those clubs playing in the Champions League as well. Atalanta surprised so many people, and they're great to watch. They play some great football, and it looks like AC Milan will be in the Champions League next year, and they've got a great record. My son continually reminds me that Milan's got 7 Champions Leagues and we've only got 2. And my AC Milan mates remind me all the time. I think one of my good friends sent me a post the other day saying it'd been 9,000 days since Juventus won the Champions League, and he's constantly digging at me about Juventus's lack of success in that competition, and that's their primary objective now, isn't it? Like, they've won the Serie A 9 years in a row, but they've sacked coaches because they haven't won the Champions League. And Sarri is the latest example of that. Allegri, Conte, all of them, great coaches, but just didn't win the Champions League for Juventus. And they're so focused on that objective at the moment. And we know how hard it is to win, but they've fallen short, and it's not good enough for a club of that size. And I'll just share quickly with you a great story about, as you know, following your club as a kid and dreaming to watch your team in Champions League. I was lucky enough to go to the 2015 Champions League final in Berlin with my best mate, and we always said that we'd do it one day. And it just so happened that we had the opportunity to go, and we found some tickets. So we flew to Berlin and we watched Juventus play Barcelona in the Champions League final. And unfortunately, we lost. But what an experience! And we were probably in the game for 80 minutes because Barca scored first, and then Juventus equalised, and the game was alive for a long period of time. And I think Barca then probably scored one, and I can't remember exactly now, maybe in the 75th minute to make it 2-1, and then Juventus had their chances, but and then they scored a really late goal to make it 3-1. But the moment that Juventus scored to equalise, we were in the Juventus curva behind the goal, and it was bedlam. That's a moment I think I'll remember on my deathbed. It was good.
It was funny, kind of like the almost symbolism of the I mean, Juve ended up losing, but the Buffon, was it just Buffon? Maybe Pirlo as well, about obviously the 06 World Cup there and then the Champions League, but obviously the Champions League didn't go to script.
No, and you're right. There was a lot, a lot of omens which were pointing in our favour. But that front three of Barcelona that night was Neymar, Suarez, and Messi. So it was a pretty handy team, a hard one to beat. And don't forget, Iniesta and Xavi, and just a great side.
I guess moving on to this season, what are your predictions of what's going to happen in the Serie A? Do you think Milan can hold on somehow and take it out, or do you think Juve are going to come crashing through, or Inter? Where do you see
Juve will come? There's no doubt that Juve will come home with a wet sail. I think they're just so experienced now and know how to win and know how to finish a season. But it's a very, very handy gap that Milan's got, and as you said, 7 points is a big gap. Juve's got a game in hand, but that game's against Naples, so that's a tough one as well. So you can't put down the 3 points there. I think it's going to go down to the wire, and it's great because in the last few years, many years now, it hasn't gone down to the wire. So look, when you look at last year's table, I think Juve only won by 1 point, but it was pretty much done with 2 or 3 games to go. I think Inter's strong. They're going to be a real test for both AC Milan and for Juventus. But when you look at the table, I think those 3 are going to be the ones that are going to be fighting it out. Milan's got a lot of injuries at the moment, so the fact that they lost 3-1 to Juventus, yes, Juventus had some injuries as well, but neither team was at full strength. I think Milan were probably hurt more by their absentees. So obviously Zlatan is to come back, but I think this will be a really an interesting season because obviously there's the presence of COVID. Players will be missing throughout the season through COVID. Juventus, had some players missing through COVID last week. Dybala's out now for the next few weeks with an injury. Juventus has got the depth, and I think that will help them. They can cover some of those losses, whereas AC Milan, we saw against Juventus, if you're losing 3 or 4 players, then it's hard to cover in terms of the depth. So I'll have to say Juve because I'm a Juventus supporter, but it's going to go down to the wire. And if Milan or Inter win, I wouldn't be surprised.
I kind of cop a bit of stick because at the start of the season, before anything had started, I should have been more faithful, but I said that Milan would finish, I think I said 4th. And obviously, I'm very happy with how it's going, but it doesn't look very good that I've said 4th and now they're killing it. But I really hope we can hold on.
Yeah, and Inter were knocked out of the Champions League too, and Europe altogether. So whilst that's bad for them, it's going to help them in their quest to win the Serie A because they won't have that huge fixture schedule, and obviously Milan as well has that advantage also.
Absolutely. On COVID, do you think that that's had an impact on teams like Milan doing quite well this year? Because you look at the list and it doesn't really make sense that Milan's list at the moment is doing better than Juve or Inter. Whose teams are both just star-studded. yeah, do you think COVID's had an impact on that?
I'm not sure COVID has. Obviously, teams have been hurt by that, but so has Milan. So I think Milan's well coached, and Pioli's done a fantastic job. And obviously, Juve's had a change in coach, and that's taken some time for them to adjust. Huge risk by Juventus to put in Andrea Pirlo with no experience, and it's been up and down. I've watched every game, and there've been some performances when you've just thought, well, this is not working at all. But you look at the Barcelona game when we beat them comprehensively in Spain, and then the AC Milan game as another example, where they play some really good football. And he's made some changes. He's had to adapt and brought in some players like Chiesa. And at the start again, Chiesa, I think a lot of Juventus fans were thinking, what did they buy him for? 70 million euro. That's a lot of money, and he's not adding anything. But we've seen in the last fortnight just how valuable he can be to the team, and he's a big part of the Italian national team as well. So speaking of the Italian national team, just the other thing I read this morning was that Bernardeschi is looking likely to leave, and he's obviously going to play with the Italian national team, and he needs to play football, and he's just not playing. So I think Juventus may loan him out, but given the fact they brought in Chiesa and Kulusevski and those types of players, Bernardeschi is really finding it hard to get game time.
Absolutely. Well, we might call it there. Once again, thank you very much, Michael, for coming on. Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a really good chat, and it's been amazing to get your insights on what you think about football in Australia and what's going to happen in the Serie A. Hopefully we see Milan take it out in the end, and Juve don't catch us, but I guess we'll see. So yeah, thank you.
No, thanks for inviting me. Sorry I had to leave. Could have spoken for hours, Luke. But well done on organising this, and I won't say all the best for the season, but let's hope it goes down to the wire and the best team wins.
Exactly, Milan by 1 point, I'll say. All right, thank you. And we always finish by saying Forza Milan, but that's up to you, maybe.
I won't help that. But I'll just share one more thing. I've been to the San Siro once, but I've only been I only managed to get there in a pre-season game, and I saw Juve play Milan in the pre-season cup competition they had there, and that was still great. Even though it was a pre-season competition, Del Piero was playing for Juve, and Milan had one of their great teams when they were winning Champions Leagues. And San Siro, to all the Milan fans, if you haven't been there, make sure you get there before they demolish the joint, because it's a great stadium.
Yeah, it really is. I'll never forget the time that I first saw it. It's almost like a holy experience when you emerge out of the station or wherever and you see it for the first time. Yeah, I definitely agree.
Thanks, Luke.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hopefully speak soon.
See you, mate.
All right, everyone, we're now going to move on to our match summary and review or preview for the next match upcoming. This week we have Liz back with us. Shady's out, unfortunately, but I'm sure you'll fill Shady's big shoes very well this week, Liz. Are you excited?
Yeah, very excited. Took the words out of my mouth. So hope Shady likes this one. But yeah, looking forward to reviewing and previewing the match against Cagliari.
Yeah, I got to say it's a big video, this one. We obviously Michael Zappone and now Liz back as well. You've been in high demand, Liz. People been sending through messages about how much they value your opinion and what you think about the team. So it's definitely our biggest video yet. So anyway, let's crack on into the two Torino matches. I guess 2 wins. I wouldn't say our strongest performances, but as Shady and I always say, this team's got a bit of heart and that Milan grinta that we all say, and they kind of just got through, didn't they?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think it's it's good, I guess, to see that we did fight out the 0-0 draw and make it all the way to the penalties. Obviously, the 2-0 win was great, but same again, I think it's really good to see that we've got that squad depth and we can rotate the players through. For me, obviously, the biggest one stepping through was Kalulu during the week. As a Zlatan fan, I always have to love the comments, and as someone who loves defenders, I absolutely love the comments of taking the gloves off, because it's not very intimidating for strikers. But I was kind of thinking maybe here in Australia we don't have a sense of how cold it will be. So I think, whilst I agree with the comments, I think it'd be pretty cold whilst they're playing those matches. So I'd probably want to be having gloves on as well.
Yeah, but I think Kalulu really did step up in that Coppa Italia match. We've known that he's talented, but I've been really impressed with what he's shown. I think he's actually showing that he does have first team football in him. And really, I think as a theme, our back line in general has been terrific over the last few weeks. They've really stepped to the plate because obviously the midfield has been really kind of starved of players, literally. And even without Zlatan and Çalhanoğlu in and out, it's been hard offensively. So we've really had to fall back on the defensive line. So you're absolutely right. Kalulu stepped up, and it was pretty impressive to see what he did.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, for me, I think Calabria has been the most exciting player just in terms of his versatility. Like, I really liked him in the midfield. I know that we've got other midfield players, and I know that it means that obviously losing him in the defensive role, but I think he's been the most exciting, and I think I've really enjoyed watching him play over the past few weeks.
Yeah, for sure. And even Gigio Donnarumma, like, is it fair to say that he's the best goalkeeper in the world?
I mean, there's usually goalkeeping howlers, I think, coming out of the Premier League. So I don't know, but I don't think that would be. I don't think that would be unfair to say. I mean, he's definitely really solid for us. It'd be really interesting to see, I guess, maybe some more stats on the shots that he saved and the quality of them. But it always seems that anytime there's a really good opportunity, he's always there and he's always blocking the shot. And of course, yelling at the defenders straight after, which is always entertaining. But also I thought Diaz did a good job. Especially there was a few moments where he was linking up with Leao. So I think even if we didn't score in the 0-0 draw, I think we created some really good chances, and obviously really good opportunity for Zlatan to get some minutes and come back into the team.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. Speaking about Zlatan, he's back, and he's from everything he's saying in the media, he's raring to go. I mean, we would have known that anyway. And I guess that kind of feeds on to the Cagliari match coming up. He'll be back, and he said, what did he say during the week? That the Winter Championship means nothing if you don't win the whole thing in the end. So he's very hungry for a few more wins. Do you think that him coming back in is actually really important to the team? Because we have seen that the team can still survive without him. But how much difference do you think a Zlatan for a whole 90 or the majority of the game makes?
I think I mentioned it last time I was on. I think what I've enjoyed most about this team is more that they are really a squad, and that we've had players being able to step in and out, do their job consistently, whether it be through covering for players with COVID or through injury. So I mean, there's no doubt that I think he's important. He's such a big physical presence, and I know he's a really good leader in the squad. I think maybe, I think hopefully, as he likes to call himself, a lion, hopefully he can unleash the lion against Cagliari, because I guess we didn't see him convert during the week. I think I think he's definitely an important character to have around, whether he's playing or not. But I think that's probably the skill of our team, is that we haven't relied specifically on one player. I think it's really important maybe with Liao out this match through suspension. So from that perspective, I think maybe we would have been in a little bit of trouble if he wasn't back. So that's probably, the most exciting thing for me.
Yeah, for sure. And we're coming, obviously Cagliari aren't in the best of form, which is kind of funny because of the players that they have, and that we know Di Francesco's manager he has form at Roma and everywhere. But yeah, they're in a very bad place, I would say, for this season, sitting 16th. It's probably below what we've come to expect from them over the last few seasons, I would say. I think they're 10 games winless, haven't won since November. And they're coming up against a Milan team that scored, I think, in 18 of the last away matches that we've been in, and only lost one game this season. So from their side of things, it's a pretty imposing thing, I guess, even though it is a home match.
Yeah, and I think when you pair that with their stat of conceding 2 goals a game, I think all our attacking players would probably be licking their lips.
Yeah.
I mean, on paper they've got a pretty good squad. Definitely you probably expect more from Godin, but maybe he's showing his age, and I don't know. I guess there's always that risk of when you're playing a team that hasn't won, do they then step up and do they then step up and perform? I know like João Pedro still managed to score a few goals. Same with Simeone. So I think there would probably be some players to watch out for. But yeah, conceding 2 goals a game, I don't know. If you're an attacking player in that, you're getting really excited, I'd say.
Yeah. And I think that's been the biggest question of them this season, that defensively they've just struggled. And for this game, unfortunately for Di Francesco, they're missing a few of their centre backs, and even just injury wise and suspension wise, they're not in a great place. But as you said, regardless of that, they still have players like Godin, Nainggolan, even Ricardo Sotil, Simeone. Like, there's players are still there, so they could spring up and surprise us. But yeah, I mean, as a team that's going for the Scudetto, which I think we are, I think it should be a game that our players are excited for.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Okay, so obviously our players are all very excited for this match. I think it's fair to say that we expect the win. So I guess we'll see. It's for all us Melburnians, or Australians, I guess, or Australians in our time zone. The game's 6:45 a.m. On this Tuesday the 19th. So make sure we're all watching and supporting. So yeah, moving on to transfer news for the week. We had a signing during the week, Defaz.
Yeah, bringing Miet in to help add some numbers into our midfield, which I think I'm excited for. Takes a bit of pressure off of Kessie. I mean, I think he's the player that's played in the most matches. Can't remember if it was across Europe or in Italy. So I think it's good that we can give him the opportunity maybe to rest his body, especially with the European Cup matches and now still being in Coppa Italia. So yeah, I'm excited. And what are you thanking of? I'm personally a big fan. I think it'd be good to pick him up on free transfer. But what are your thoughts on Mandzukic potentially coming into the squad?
Cool. It's interesting because he'd be back up to Zlatan, and I would think his wage bill would be considerably high for a backup. But in saying that, we do need one. It's just a question of whether that then kind of stunts the growth of Leao, Maldini, Colombo. But I am of the opinion that we do need another striker. So I would take him. But I think, yeah, there needs to be a bit of. I'm sure Maldini is thinking a lot about it. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I know it's one of those ones where I'm really torn because I've loved seeing the young players coming through. But I think maybe it will come down to how good of a deal we can get. I mean, obviously he's available as a free agent. You know, do we sign him for 2 years and maybe move him back to Qatar in a year or so time, or keep him in the squad? Does he, I mean, I'm not too sure what he's like in terms of being involved in the environment. Does it work well, you know, maybe having another older striker as a mentor for the younger players? So there's not as much pressure on them. But yeah, I mean, Haug has been fantastic. So I think the young players have stepped up. Not sure, but yeah, I think in Maldini we trust. So we'll back him with his decision on that one.
Make the right call. Yeah, I do have to agree. And it's almost a case of we've invested so much in these young players that now, just as we're about to kind of reap the rewards of doing that, is it worth then mixing it up and throwing in older heads and older players and maybe throwing off that mix? But yeah, I don't know. Even would Zlatan even want someone like Mandzukic coming in? I don't know. I think he would handle it well, but
maybe we're wrong. Maybe it's Zlatan's decision to make. But I think maybe in a normal season that would definitely be valid. But I think, you know, especially with COVID, where you don't know, you could be losing players due to COVID. There's congested fixtures, so you know we might be getting more injuries. So you know, and we're also seeing like yellow card suspensions and that kind of thing. You know, is it at the point of the season where it might not be a bad thing to have extra squad players? But yeah, it just depends on how they come into the environment.
Exactly. Well, I guess we'll see what unfolds over the next few weeks, what Maldini has up his sleeve. I'm sure he has something. So yeah, I guess that kind of wraps up this video for this week. Liz, thanks for coming on. You've done Shady proud, I would say.
Hope so.
And I guess for everyone watching or listening, as always, head over to our website. We've got some awesome new t-shirt designs out, limited stock, I think, so check it out while they're there. If you're not a member, sign up. It's a great club to be a part of. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and see you next video. Step around,